So hi on the Noise Podcast. I'm Shane.
I'm Glory.
We're recording the Throwback Thursday on a Thursday.
Fucking Thursday.
Still posting it on a Monday, but
yeah, that's not changing. That's not changing.
What if we got really crazy one of these days and we put out a Throwback Thursday on a Thursday that was recorded on a Thursday? Thursday Inception.
Don't play because that shit just pisses me off. Like, you're just... Who the fuck do you think I am?
Well, today we're wrapping up the Motionless and White discography, closing it off with their most recent record, their 2022 album, Scoring the End of the World. This is, we haven't had an opportunity to chat about too many albums on here that we've previously reviewed. Do not go find the review for this. No. 2022, rough times. But considering it's a band that I enjoyed a lot, we probably talked about it a little bit more than we did on average, but it was probably just like, I really like it. And that's
really,
pretty much
really good.
That's pretty much going to be my points this time around too. So maybe nothing's changed.
Maybe we are still the same people we were 2 years ago. That's not good. That's not good.
So yeah, we'll be closing it off with this record. At the end of this review, we'll be ranking the discography, which is going to be a hard feat for me, maybe not for Glory. This is Glory's first go around with the Motionless discography. I have been listening for way too long. But diving in here, this is the album. This is the one that really popped off for them. A lot of big moments with this album. The touring got bigger. There's more production. There's more people there. The venues are bigger. Everything is a lot bigger post this album. That does not mean I enjoy it all that much.
Oh, okay.
Okay. That's a bold statement. Like, I do think there's plenty of great moments on this album, but it's missing to me the quirk or the spice that draws me to Motionless in White. Like, it's got a little bit of like different feeling production. The songs are obviously a little bit more like for the masses. There's the slow moments. There's a good bit of them, and some of them feel like they drag on. Like, no offense to Masterpiece, I know it's great and big and all, but I am not the biggest fan of that song.
That's so fair. That's so fair. Yeah.
So but to me, the production feels a little bit different than the previous albums. It's a little less corny, which is like something that I come to Motionless in White for.
They still find a way.
It's still got plenty of corny moments, but it just doesn't feel the same. But it feels like what they were trying to accomplish, and they accomplished what they were trying to accomplish, which is let's go for it. Let's go for the success, and they certainly accomplished that. But yeah, this is the album I've spent the least amount of time with. I tried to enjoy it and really get into it when it first came out, and it just kept falling flat. Like, even going back through listening through this album and the singles, I wasn't super amped on the singles when they were coming out. Like a song like Cyberhex, which was the lead single, it's fine. It's fine, but it just doesn't do it for me. Like, there are so many other songs in their discography that do it for me. Even like the couple of standalone songs that we got, in between album cycles, had me more excited for the next record, which obviously one of them was a 10-year anniversary song for Creatures, but Time Bomb, those songs had me more excited for where the band was going than the singles off this record. And I know we're not covering the deluxe edition this time around because it's just additional songs, unlike Infamous, where it's a whole new thing. But the deluxe songs, and I said this when we reviewed the deluxe, which you can probably dig that up somewhere too.
But honestly, don't.
Yeah, I enjoy those songs more because they are closer to the essence of what I enjoy about Motionless in White. Yeah, this album does fall flat for me in areas. It doesn't mean that I'm this huge hater. I was very bold with my statement at the beginning to keep the attention of the people.
So you clickbaited.
Yeah,
clickbait.
But it is still my least favorite. It's the one I've spent the least amount of time with. I do like the way it opens with Meltdown as well as Sign of Life. Those two songs have been favorites for me for a while. Obviously, Slaughterhouse is like an obvious
Talk
one,
about it.
but I'm not a huge fan of it being sandwiched between Porcelain and Masterpiece, because it is like this big, the big moment on the album, the easily the heaviest song, and then it's just Masterpiece. Like we were going
It's a
up,
big, it's a big dip.
we were going up with we were going up with Slaughterhouse. The vibe was brought down a little bit with Porcelain. Going up, grandiose thing with Slaughterhouse. Boom, flatline, back down to zero with the beginning of Masterpiece. I'm a big fan of Red, White, and Boom. I have been since I heard the record. It's probably my favorite off the album, which seems to be an unpopular opinion, because it's it's the lowest streamed song by a good little bit here, by about 1 million plays as of the time of recording. But I would probably argue my opinion on this album might be a little controversial the entire way through, considering what it's done for the band. And I won't discredit that. And obviously, as a fan of the band, I'm stoked to see where this has taken them. And obviously, when they play these songs live, I know all of the words. Like
you're still a fucking fan.
I'm just as obnoxious as I am when they're playing the old stuff, but the enjoyment for me comes out of the older stuff. So yeah, that's my initial thoughts on the album.
Okay. So as you mentioned earlier at the beginning of the review, this is my first time kind of going around with their discography in full, so kind of being able to see everything lined up next to each other, with like a week buffer in between listening to everything, but just kind of remembering, looking back on the rest of their discography. I can definitely, now that you say it, I could see what you're talking about with how compared to fucking Disguise, compared to Graveyard Shift, there's you can't hold them together. Like scoring the end of the world, there's whatever, has a lot of big moments in it, like Slaughterhouse, Cyberhex, Werewolf, Masterpiece, like songs that have given the band commercial success. And I do feel like it is their most palatable album. It's definitely more mainstream, more radio rock-esque, just more for general consumption versus Graveyard Shift, where it's a little darker and cringe and goofy a little bit, but it's still fucking good and gnarly. So I think definitely you being a fan for so long and kind of being able to grow with the band, I get it. I completely fucking get it. And but all that to say, I do like this record. I do enjoy this record. This was the first time this morning was the first time since it came out, since the deluxe, I guess, that I've listened to the entire record in full. Aside from Slaughterhouse, that's literally the one song that I have in like all my playlists because it's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
It's just, that was like one of my top songs of 2020. Fuck, what is it? 2022 and 2023. It was in like my top 5 tracks for those 2 years. So I was a massive fan of that. I think the track listing is okay. I completely agree with your Porcelain to Slaughterhouse to Masterpiece, how jumbled that is, and just kind of how, I don't know, having Porcelain and Masterpiece that close together in the track listing and having them separated by the best song on the record, the heaviest song on the record, in theory makes sense, but if you're actually listening to it in full as a fan, it's kind of like oh, whoa, hey, it's fucking chunky. I don't like it. Meltdown as an opener is fucking incredible. Big fan of that song. I forgot how much I liked it. I immediately added it to my playlist because I was like, God damn, this shit is fun.
It is.
This shit is really fun with a little countdown and oh, okay. Sign of Life is good. Werewolf, there's their cringe.
Found it.
Yeah, there it is. Third track on the album, guys. That's gotta be a record. I don't know. That's gonna be a fucking personal best. Porcelain, I thought was fine. I mean, it's one of those, I say typical lightly, but it's one of those typical, you were so fragile and I broke you and I'm sorry songs, So it's kind of like shrug. It doesn't really hit me with anything. It's just kind of like, okay, yeah, sure. Slaughterhouse, already gassed that shit up their best song that they've made, period, point blank. Like, that's fucking it. Masterpiece, a bit sluggish. It is, I'm pretty sure that is the biggest song off the record. Yeah, it's the biggest song off the record. That's the one that they had the most radio hits with.
Which makes sense.
I've heard it. It makes sense because it's almost like organized as a ballad. And it's big, and it has like that big anthemic moment, and it's sad, and it tugs at your heart a little bit, but it still has kind of like that snarl and a little bit of anger.
Yep.
Great. Hits all the notes. Doesn't work for me though, because it's just like, that's not the type of music I listen to, you know? But I understand the commercial success. I get it. Cause of Death, I think, is great. I think it kind of picks up kind of where Slaughterhouse left off. It's kind of like that gnarly snarl, like, fuck all of you. Grr. I love it. I think it's great. We Become the Night, there's another cringe song for you. So they got two. I can't complain.
Cringe counter. Can we get a cringe counter in the corner? Editor?
Please? Yeah, editor. Right there, please. Yeah, not a big fan of We Become the Night. I believe it's very, like, I love Motionless when they're cringy, but this song specifically, they outdid themselves. Like, it's hard to listen to because it is just so, like, it's too much. It's genuinely, it's just too much for me. I can't listen to it. Burnt at Both Ends, I thought was fine. It just, it didn't leave an impression on me at all. Corpse Nation is great. I talk about that shit. Like, I brought it up, like, in 2 other reviews where I was just like, oh, shout out Corpse Nation, by the way. I fucking love that song. Still a really big fan of that song. Cyberhex, catchy as fuck. I wish Cyberhex had the commercial success that Masterpiece did, because I think it's a lot more fun. I think it's a lot more upbeat. But again, it could be seen as more generic or just kind of, you know, pass it by. Oh, it wasn't anything special. So that's just me though. Red Wine Boom is good. I liked it more the first time I listened to it when the album first came out, and that was the song where we were both like, no, that song is crazy. That song.
This is going to be the big one, and we were wrong.
So wrong. Yeah. The exact opposite, actually. I think it's just okay. I fucking love Caleb Shomo. I think he's a great vocalist. Happy that he was featured on the track. Awesome collaboration. And then the title track, Scoring the End of the World, I thought was, again, it was good.
Yeah.
But the album overall, I think, was a bit too jumbled. And it had a lot more, I don't want to call it filler, but it's just songs that didn't really hit me or resonate or leave a lasting impression at all, versus the rest of their records. Not counting Infamous, that album can actually, like...
Well, we know what Glory's number 6 is going to be.
Let's talk about it. So yeah, that's my review. That is my review. I think it's just a good record. Yeah. You know, has good moments, but overall, I don't think I would revisit it in full again.
Yeah,
you know?
And I'd like to touch on the point, like you talked about, obviously the commercial success of the album and how the album, you know, feels like it was obviously written for that. One thing that, you know, I feel like this album has, it's got a lot of big moments where it's like these big anthemic where a breakdown could go, but instead it's this big moment in the song that's not exactly a breakdown, and it lacks in breakdowns, and when there is a breakdown, it's a little bit more like futuristic feeling, so it doesn't
it's a lot glitchy. It's kind of techno.
It doesn't hit as hard as previous albums where it was like, now granted, I understand it's a stylistic thing on the album,
it's telling a story, it's a concept record, so
but it's not, you know, that style then hinders for me the hitting of the breakdowns on this album, but I just feel like it's lacking in that as well, hence why I enjoy a song like Red, White and Boom, because it feels the most like what I know the band to be, while still having that futuristic edge to it. So yeah, that's my... that I think that is, like, talking about it more is kind of where it winds up lacking for me, is a lot of big moments, which I enjoy. I love popular heavy music, don't get me wrong, but I also like breakdowns, and this
big
album,
fan of breakdowns.
Huge fan of breakdowns.
Would like
so
more of those.
This album does lack a little bit in that department, but it is what it is. I still enjoy the album, but when I go to listen to the discography, there's 5 other albums that I'm going to click on before this one. But I obviously, as I already said, appreciate this album for what it is, as well as acknowledge the success that it's had for the band, and love that. I mean, without this album, I don't think I would have seen them in an arena a couple weeks ago. So all that to say, I'm excited to see where it goes from here.
New record soon.
Yeah, I'm not signing off of the band anytime soon unless the next one, like, even if the next one's a total stinker, the live show is too good to not keep seeing them, and it's only going to keep getting crazier.
And the rest of the discography is still there, so it's like, that one album sucked, but I got 4 or 5 other records to listen to.
Yeah. Or if the style keeps moving and changing, maybe I'll grow with it. But this is like the first time where the sound has changed in a while. So it is what it is. But as we said at the beginning, now we're going to be ranking the albums starting at number 6 and going all the way to number 1. I did have to call on my trusty friend Last FM here to go back to my listening stats, because I was thinking this morning, like, panicking. I'm like, holy shit, today's the day.
I gotta rank it.
I have to rank the Motionless in White discography for my silly little podcast. And I was like, I'm going to have to go and call on my Last FM stats for some help here, because I don't know if I can formulate an opinion without also looking at the numbers. So I'll kick it off. I think my number 6 is obvious. It's the album we just finished talking about. It's Scoring the End of the World.
Wow, all the way at the bottom. Okay,
as I said throughout the review, I think the album is good. It's got moments that I enjoy, but it is the one that I've revisited the least. My listening stats, definitely confirm that for me. And it's just everything, like, go back 15 minutes and just watch everything that I said for 15 minutes, and that's my thoughts. I don't want to sit here and rehash it, but I think the album is just good, and there's better albums in their discography, hence why it's number 6. But I just want to preface before we get any further, I don't hate any of the albums, so ranking the discography is extremely hard, because I don't have a single album where I'm like, that's a number 6, because I could have, on a different day, this could be somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, exactly, because you could be hating Infamous one day. You're like, you know what, fuck you, you're number 6. Just fucking edit the video.
Take it down and record my own new version.
Exactly. Cut it in, crop it in. Yeah. Okay. So my number 6, I'm pretty sure it is Infamous.
Saw that one coming.
I think it's just okay. Honestly, blame it on Cinematic. I fucking hate that song so much. Anti shout out Cinematic, because fuck you. I think there are a lot of good moments on this album, but honestly, it's just kind of sound-wise, it's very hard for me to digest, and that's putting it up against their fucking debut. So it's like, we had a whole conversation in the review for Infamous, and I still was under the impression that the deluxe version that was remixed and remastered was the bad remaster. So even with that, it's just aged. So that's just me. Hard for me to digest, because I just can't get past it. I'm just not a fan of it. I'm gonna be so real. I thought it was just okay.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough. Yeah, I saw that one coming based on the review. It was the one you were stoked on the absolute least. And I said all my points, and then you looked at me a little weird, and you're like, "Are you sure?"
Are we talking about the same record right now?
When Glory gives me that look, I'm like, I know what's coming.
You don't even have to say anything.
We don't discuss the albums before we review them, and that's across the board now, unless something just blows us away. We used to discuss in detail and then know what the other person was going to say. We like that element of surprise now.
Exactly. Yeah.
But she gives me that look while I'm talking, and then I become unsure by what I'm saying, because I'm like, did we even hear the same album? like obviously,
wait a minute.
obviously everything is subjective, so it doesn't matter. We're just speaking our opinions. But she looks at me, and I'm like, she's judging the ever living shit out of me right now.
Yeah, damn right I am. We're both very opinionated. So it's just,
it's perfect that we have this outlet then.
Exactly. Because if not, we probably would be friends anymore. It's like, I'm not fucking talking to that guy anymore. He likes Infamous. Yeah. Oh, shit.
My number 5 is Creatures, and that is solely because I have nowhere else to put it. There's 4 other albums that I want to put higher, and Creatures just has to go number 5. I really enjoy it. It is, the kind of style of metalcore that I just gravitate towards naturally. That early 2010s metalcore. There's so many bands from that genre that I enjoy. They've obviously all progressed past that, and I've grown with them. But I do love going back to that moment in time, wishing that I could be at the Motionless and White shows from that era, the Asking Alexandria shows from that era, things like that. So it is a nice time capsule for me, and I spent a good chunk of time with the album, but it's solely number 5 because I have nowhere else to put it, and it pains me to put it so low because I do really enjoy it, and as I said, I've spent a lot of time with it. But yeah, like a massive shout out to Abigail for sure, as well as Scissorhands.
Okay, shout out. For my number 5, it's also Creatures. Mainly because I just prefer the other albums so much more than I prefer Creatures, but I don't dislike it as much as I dislike Infamous. That's literally like the only reason why. I think it's a really good record. I think Immaculate Misconception is one of their best songs ever. I think it's top 5, and it's crazy that they were able to pull that off on their debut. I think Abigail is, I think it's great. We Only Come Out at Night. Honestly, I really like a lot of his track listing. I'm just reflecting on it again. City Lights, to me, I know it's very personal and it's a important song for fans and for Chris himself, but again, it's just not one of my favorites. So that is the lower moment on the record for me. Everything else, though, really big fan of. I do enjoy that record a lot.
There are so many bonkers moments on that album. For me, there's like just it is like a perfect run because I enjoy City Lights. But yeah, it's solely got nowhere else to put it for me. That's it. I feel like I have to keep justifying putting it so low, but I'm just gonna move on before I keep talking in a circle.
It's okay.
Number 4 for me is Disguise. Now from this point forward, it is solely I don't know how to organize these at all.
Just fucking shuffle.
I don't know what to do anymore. I'm still lost. I'm trying to be as confident as possible, but I'm so not confident in my own answers on my own opinion. God. As I stated in the review, this is how I found the band. Spent so much time with this album, got to see them tour this album cycle as well. It's got so many fantastic moments on it. It is where we start to see what we spoke about with Scoring the End of the World, where there's some slower, bigger anthemic moments on the album. They start to touch on that, but it is also got the heavy breakdown things that were going on Graveyard Shift. It's got the sound of Graveyard Shift while also showing kind of where the band's going to go, but didn't see the futuristic style change coming because it's still got kind of that grit that they had been carrying with them for a few albums. I love tracks like Brand New Numb, Disguise, Headache, Code, Thoughts and Prayers, all the fucking heavy songs on the album. I know you're a big fan of Broadcasting from Beyond the Grave. I had to, when I edited the review, this is a little insight into the editing process, I had to, Glory forgot to talk about Another Life, but you don't know that in the review because I stitched it together. That's how excited she was to talk about that song.
I fucking love that song so much. Like, it is, that's top 3.
Hell
top
yeah.
3. And it's not 2 or fucking 3. I'll tell you that.
When, and the slow songs on the album, the big moments, I feel are a little bit that I enjoy them a little bit more. Songs like Legacy and Another Life. Another Life I kind of compare to Masterpiece, but I still prefer Another Life. It's just more enjoyable to me overall. And shout out Catharsis. I do really enjoy that as the closer. Gave a small mini review for that one, but yeah, I'm a fan of this album, and as I said, from this point forward, it's in God's hands. I don't know what the fuck.
It's just, dude, you don't even know what's going next. It's kind of whatever fucking comes out of your mouth first.
Yeah.
For my number 4, it's Scoring the End of the World. I think it's a solid record. I mean, we just reviewed it.
Mhm.
Take all those points I said, where it's kind of, I think it has a lot of high moments, but also to contrast those, a lot of very low moments
Mhm.
for me, where it just either loses momentum or the song just feels lifeless. So, yeah, that's it. Just to put it simply,
Yeah.
bluntly, not awesome, but, half decent.
Yeah.
Mm.
Hell yeah. Um, getting in the top three here now. My number three is Graveyard Shift. Big fan of this album. Again, another record I spent a lot of time with. Got into this one because of the Jonathan Davis feature. I was getting into Korn. I was getting into Korn. This just so happened they had a Korn feature. Perfect mix. For me, this is the grit that I enjoy from the band. This is the record that really doesn't have any slow moments. This is just keep going until eternally yours, which isn't even this big, like, it's this big closer but isn't even a super slow song. You turn it on with Rats and you just go until the end. And as someone that is not always the biggest fan of slow songs, although when I'm super into a band I come to appreciate them. This is still like, I still like when I listen to a record and I put you just put a cinder block on the gas pedal and you just go until you hit a fucking wall.
Exactly. Yeah.
Tracks like Rats, Necessary Evil, the latter, which is a song that I have recently like rediscovered and really gotten into, Hourglass, and Loud are some of my favorites. But then there's plenty of cringe on this album as well, which is, we talked about that at length during our review. Special shout out to Not My Type, Dead as Fuck 2, that made me question if I should even go further with this band, because the song is so interesting, to put it lightly. Big fan of this album. Just on the gas pedal, go.
Yeah. Okay, solid. So my number 3 is Reincarnate. I really like this record a lot. I think it's really fucking strong. I think it has some really big features on it, and not just name-wise. I mean, fucking Maria Brink is massive. In This Moment is massive. But it's also more so how they support the song and how they add to it. And I think fucking Contemptuous would not be the same without Maria. As much as I'm like not the biggest fan of her vocals, I do think she fits perfectly on that track, and it would not be the same without her. Everybody Sells Cocaine is another insane track by them. I love it so much. I've revisited it since the review, and that's new for me because I was like, oh shit, I want to fucking listen to that. Shout out to Dead as Fuck. I love that song a lot. Again, shout out Kaylin. It's kind of like a little piece of heaven moment, which is really fucking cool. Death March is also incredible. Honestly, just a really big fan of this record. I think it's obviously top 3. It fits. It makes sense.
Hell yeah. My number 2, and if I could tie this for number 1, I would, is Reincarnate. It's got that big opener that's just like like one of those moments of like, holy fuck, the album is starting, and what you're about to get yourself into. The title track is just one of the, I wish that this was the big, this was obviously a big moment for the band, a massive single at the time, but I wish that this was the moment, because for me in their discography,
this was their masterpiece.
It is the moment. This is, one of my favorite songs by the band, Reincarnate. But there's plenty of other bangers on here as well. A massive shout out to Everybody Sells Cocaine. Getting to finally hear that live was fucking bonkers. Break the Cycle, Generation Lost, Final Dictum, Carry the Torch as the closer. Big fan of that. As I stated in the review, part of why this is going to take the number 2 spot, but if I could, I'd tie it for number 1, is Wasp. It's a song that I always skip in their discography. Great,
it's your favorite song by
great live. But it's a song that I always skip. I have the Shane way that I listen to this album, which is without Wasp, because again, this is without Wasp. This is another album where you can put the cinder block on the accelerator and just keep going. So yeah, overall, a massive fan of this album, and as I stated, if I could put it as a tie for number one, I would. But unfortunately, I got to put something in the number two spot. Another shout out to Everybody Sells Cocaine. You go listen to that song, right? And pause this and go listen to this.
Yeah,
honestly,
take 3 minutes and 40 seconds or something. I don't know, however long it is. My number two is Graveyard Shift.
Hell yeah!
I fucking love this album a lot. I think honestly, this is, I don't want to say peak Motionless, because obviously there's still a number one spot, but I do believe that this is the truest to their full form that they've been. I think it's gnarly. I think there's a little bit of cringe, but it's not as bad as the rest of their records. I think it flows incredibly. I think the songwriting is great. I think honestly, this is an incredible record. I fucking love it. Shout out Rats, Soft, Not My Type, Dead as Fuck 2. A song so good they had to make a second one. Voices, obviously, and Eternally Yours. Eternally Yours especially is incredible. Oh, I already said Soft. Necessary Evil, I have notes. Again, I just don't like Jonathan Davis's part. He sounds so grizzled. I don't know. And I'm just like, give me something. Give me something. But I fucking love Chris's part. I'm gonna have my cake and fucking eat you too. Like, come on. Okay. Great album, great record. I love the vibes of it. I fucking love the cover art. I think it is so motionless and white. I think this would be the best introduction record for them. And yeah, that's it. Yeah.
It is the record that I recommend to people when they're like, what should I listen to? Like Graveyard Shift, because it's like in that middle point before, things really start to change, where like you get all the grit. It's the four on the floor, the all gas, no break album, and they haven't started to go the anthemic route yet. So it's like the perfect taste, where it's like, if you like the chaos, go back, listen to the older stuff that's even more chaotic, and the newer stuff, there's you get the chaotic, you get a taste of the anthemic, and then you go even more forward and you get a little bit more anthemic, a little less chaotic, and now you're in, you're sold.
Now you got it. Exactly. That's fucking Motionless gotcha.
My number one is Infamous, which I know Glory disagrees with based on her ranking. Yeah, there you go. Yep.
That's just bonkers.
Have you not been paying attention to the past 5 albums that I've said?
I know, but it's still just like, I was kind of hoping you were gonna be like, oh shit, I miscounted. Or I actually said something twice or something, and I just maybe missed it. But okay, sorry. No, go.
In particular, the deluxe edition. Obviously, for the better mix and master, as well, but more so the additional tracks that I think really add to the album and give it this close. Where as I discussed in the review, I feel like with Infamous being the closer, it kind of just ends, whereas with Fatal closing the record off, it feels like you kind of get that final, you turn the last page in the book, and you hit the back cover. Big fan of the style of this album. It's a little bit more industrial. It is a massive change from Creatures to Infamous. I know they lost a good chunk of the fan base with this record, but obviously gained a whole new fan base with the album because of the big sonic change. A lot more industrial, and I've always gravitated towards this record. When I go to listen to Motionless, it is kind of a toss up between this album and Reincarnate, hence why I wanted to tie them both for first. The run of Cinematic to Hate Fuck, and I guess you could throw Underdog in there, which would just run you to the end of the track list, is just bonkers. Big fan of all of those songs. I know that Glory is cringing over there because she does not.
I'm just happy you like something, man.
I'm just happy you're having a good time, man.
Someone has to listen to it,
I'm just glad you like this. I'm glad there's someone out there that likes this album, man. But that whole run to save me from naming 7 or 8 songs. Special shout out to the 2 deluxe tracks, those Sick from the Melt and Fatal, as well as Devil's Night and the Divine Infection. There's so many tracks on here, so many favorites. always a treat when they pull one of these out live, because I know that, you know, for the band it was, you know, a tough time with, you know, not getting along with producers, and the album and the impact that it had on their career at the time, as well as, you know, needing to redo it and never really getting it right. You know, I know they don't look back on it with the most fondness, but I'm glad that, you know, when they pull one out, I'm always going fucking bonkers, because I have spent a hilarious amount of time with this album. Big fan, and you know, can slightly confidently say it's number one, kind of, sort of.
Slightly confident. Yeah, okay. That's...
I'm not confident with any of my answers at all.
Again, it's because you like the band. So see, it's the same thing with me and fucking Don Brogan.
Yeah.
Like, genuinely, it's just, it's very, very
Shoes on the other foot now.
Yeah, exactly. And now I'm like, this shit's easy. Okay, so my number one is Disguise. Shout out Disguise. I think it is their best record. I think it is their heaviest hitter. I think, honestly, track 1 through 11, there are no skips. I think genuinely it's just really fucking good. The title track is great. Code is fucking incredible. Thoughts and Prayers. I knew that song before I knew the record, the full record, I could say. I fucking love Another Life, obviously. Brand New Numb is, as I said in the review for it, I think it is one of the best metalcore tracks out there. Like, how it starts with I'm trying to fucking record this. Like, that's so, you know, it's going to be a good song if it starts with something like that. I think it's incredible. I think Catharsis is a great closing track. I really love this album a lot, and I think it is their best work. But I still would recommend Graveyard Shift for an introduction. I do think that is an easier one to get into, because it starts off with Rats. But it's a toss-up. You go either one, honestly. Fuck it. They're both incredible.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Well, those are our thoughts on Motionless in White's 2022 album, Scoring the End of the World, as well as our ranking of the discography. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think that I have a terrible opinion? Do you think Gloria's opinion's terrible? Let us know. Sound off, please. Let us know. Tell us if we're great, or if we're stupid, or if we need new ears.
Would love to hear it.
Would love to hear any and all opinions. That's what this is about. You can follow us on Twitter. It's Good Noise for Noise _cast. Instagram is Good Noise Podcast. Facebook is Good Noise Pod. YouTube, Good Noise Podcast. Audio streaming services, Good Noise Podcast. Patreon.com/Good Noise Podcast. Subscribe to us here on YouTube. Helps us out a ton. And you know, this wraps up the Motionless in White discography. But we'll be doing a complete 180 and doing Panic at the Disco after this. I can't wait to revisit Pray for the Wicked and Viva Las Vengeance. And finally listen to Pretty Odd.
Oh, I have not. I could honestly probably recite that entire thing, but I haven't listened to it in like 5 years.
If somehow there's people out there that are listening to this that like Panic at the Disco, starting next week, we will be diving into that discography. And
they'll both be at fucking When We Were Young.
Yeah.
So honestly, there might be overlap.
It works out. Yeah. And that'll take us to the end of the year. So other than that, I've been Shane.
I've been Gloria.
And we've been the Good Noise Podcast. See you next week. Bye.
Bye.